Hello and welcome to how to plan how you make a wig. Listen, hear me out. Planning is a lot of fun, I promise, and it can really help out with the rest of the process of making a wig, which is why today I will try my very best to share my tips and tricks on how I plan a cosplay wig so that you can maybe decide on what techniques to use when you do your wig. I will be using Cloud Strife as my guide today or as my example today. Here's the thing, I feel like there's a lot of cosplay tutorials out there nowadays actually going through the steps on how to make the wig, but there isn't a lot of videos on why you make the wig, if that makes sense. So why are you cutting, or why are you crimping? Why are you trying to do the things you're doing? This is what I'm gonna hopefully touch on more today, so that you can hopefully bring up some tips and tricks on how I think when I plan my wig, so that you can apply it to your wig, if that makes sense. That's my plan. Anyway. Beep, 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 beep. Hello, it's me, Hannah. My plan was to talk about how to plan a wig in general, with Cloud as an example. It ended up being just me talking about how I plan my Cloud wig. Please keep watching, because I still really think you can pick up a lot of tips and tricks about how to think about how to plan a wig. But I also really want to make a video about how to plan in general. So please comment and let me know if you would rather me keep making videos like this, which is more character specific on how I planned this specific wig and why I planned it the way I made it, or if I should do one about more in general, or both. Let me know, because obviously I tried to make it more general here. It ended up being more specific than I thought, but I still feel like you can pick up some good stuff. So please, 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 please keep watching, please. And let me know which one you prefer for maybe next time. Thank you, bye. Or not bye, please stay. Stay and watch, please. Step 1 with planning your wig is, who is the character? What wig are you even making for your cosplay? Well, I am making Cloud Strife. This little guy, he's from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which means it is realistic anime style, an anime silhouette, but with a realistic texture. Flyaways are a-okay. In Final Fantasy, their hair is never 100% neat, so it needs to look like hair still. It needs to have movement, fluff, softness to it, and it has to have hair texture. So this is also why I don't let all the hairs meet at one point often in the spikes. It's more like they are going in a general direction, but they're not meeting 100% all the hairs in one point, if that makes sense. Another reason why I emphasize the softness and life of the wig, of the realistic texture, is also because in the game his hair actually moves and blows around quite a lot. And while I maybe don't want to go into a tornado with my wig, I hope it will not blow apart. I still want that bounce and that life to the wig, more similar to the way that he does. So, question 2, why are you making the wig? For me, it is because I plan to use it for different types of kinds of scenarios. Considering that I plan to use the wig for so many different types of things, I will maybe use it for a casual cosplay. I might do the Loveless outfit. I might do the female honeybee outfit. I might do the regular outfit. Considering that I want to do so many different things with the wig, it is very nice to have a sewn soft wig, not having a glued helmet wig. And why do I think that? Because, for example, if I do the Loveless, he has straps going through his hair, and if I do the Claudette, I might want to clip in some braids. Another scenario is that I might possibly want to borrow the wig to a friend, and having it be a sewn wig with wefts rather than a glued helmet, it ensures that more people can fit into my wig, because it will still be able to stretch a little bit. Another very nice thing, if I sew it, the wig, so there's no glue in this wig at all, is the fact that I will be able to wash it if I ever need to. So if I ever need to wash and restyle it, or I don't know, do a underwater photo shoot, I can do that because there's no risk of any glue falling apart. In Cloud's default outfit, he wears a high collar, And high collars have a tendency to cause a lot of friction of the neck hair of wigs and almost cause like tiny little dreads, which is awful. And something that's very nice, if it is a sewn wig with wefts, it's I use quite a lot of force when I try to pull out these like dreads neck hairs, and if it is sewn to wefts, I can just pull and a lot more. It's not as fragile. So if these like dreads are created by the friction, it's not gonna be as difficult to restore the wig, which is very nice. I might possibly, maybe at some point want to compete with the wig, which is why I try to make it in a competition level. And what do I mean by that? Considering that I might want to compete with the wig at some point, I of course want to hit all the points that are judged in a competition, such as cleanliness, techniques, as well as accuracy. And also I want to make sure that I have as proper techniques as possible to be able to show a high level of craftsmanship, so that if I ever decide to compete, hopefully judges will think that I did a good job on the wig. Again, this is also why I really put a lot of effort considering how I make my wigs and why I decided to do the things I do, so that if I ever go into a competition, I can explain why I made the decisions that I did. So I could, for example, explain why I decided to make it a sewn flexible wig using the points that I brought up. Question number 3, where will you use the wig? It is highly likely that I will try to travel with the wig. And if I ever do travel with the wig, it will probably have to go into a sad little box. It will not be able to travel on the wig head, likely. So, which is also why I don't want to glue the wig, because I want the wig to be as bouncy as possible, so that once I have traveled to my destination, I can just pick it up and hopefully with just some heat get it back into shape, rather than a completely stiff wig that might break rather than actually just bending. This is also why I decided to make a sewn flexible wig. It's also why I try to use as much heat styling as possible when I do a wig and not just rely on the products. Because if I use mainly heat styling, it's kind of melting the hair in place, so that even if it gets hit with like stuff, it just bounces back. And that's the benefit of heat styling, which is why I do as much as possible with heat before I go in with hairspray. Something else to consider when you think about where you're going to be using the wig is things such as temperature or water. Like I mentioned, what if I want to do an underwater shoot with cloud? I don't really plan to do that right now, but if I do, I will be able to, because now I have sewn the wefts. But also such a thing as temperature can be good to keep in mind. As an example, I glued one of my wigs with a low temperature hot glue, and I brought it to Japan in a Japanese summer, and the wefts started sliding because it was so warm in the climate that the wefts were actually moving. And it's something to consider if it's maybe sewing the wefts would have been better, or use another type of glue would have been better. So keep in mind where you want to be using the wig when doing the decisions that you're doing. It's also why, for example, with my Lucy wig, I sewed everything, because I really wanted to be able to possibly shoot it underwater if I want to, but I also knew that I was bringing her to Japan in Japanese summer, so I wanted it to be able to survive the heat. Question number 4 is, when does the wig need to be finished? Because if it needs to be finished in just like a day or two, then maybe hand ventilating an entire base is not the option for today. But on the other hand, if you have time, then maybe it is an option. For me, I don't have a specific deadline in mind when I did my cloud wig, so I knew that I could take my time as much as possible, no need to rush anything, neither having to rush techniques or rush decisions. I have the time in the world, which is what I like having, but also means that I don't have to cut any corners. It also gives me the option to iterate on the wig. So if I sew in some wefts, I start to style it, and then I realize, okay, no, I actually need more hair. Then I can just go back and sew in more hair. because I have the time to iterate. Another example of how to consider how much time you have when you make your wig, of when is your deadline, is, for example, I have considered if I should add a ventilated lace piece to the wig in the neck of the wig to make it a more natural neckline for the back of the wig, make it more realistic. And if I did that, I would have to add the lace and I would have to hand ventilate it all by myself. It would obviously take quite some time, but I do have that time, so I could have done it right away, right? But I also am not sure if a lace piece is necessary for this wig, and I don't know if it is the best choice for the durability of the wig, because I am afraid that the friction that I mentioned previously, the friction of the collar, I'm afraid the friction would just mess up the hair that is in the lace piece, and I think it will be very difficult to restore. So I don't know how much of a problem this will be with this cosplay, which is why I don't want to spend a lot of time into doing the lace piece, and then maybe the wig will just get ruined because it has such poor durability. But now, since I have the time in the world, I decided to not do the lace piece. I will be able to wear the wig, try it out, try it on, how it feels, how it works, and then if I notice that no, this really needs a lace piece, I can just go back and add it later because I have the time. Question number 5. 5 is, what do you need to make your wig happen? That is extremely difficult for me to answer, but I will once again use my cloud wig as an example to try and just run through what I used when I made my wig. So something that you will most definitely need, no matter what type of wig you're making, is a reference picture, or rather, hopefully, multiple reference pictures. Something else you will definitely need is some sort of base wig. For me, the base wig is from Arda Wigs, and the only reason I got it from Arda is because I bought an Aerith wig from there, so I just threw in the cloud wig with it. But I used wefts from Coscraft, which is hilarious because the colors match up almost perfectly. Actually, what I used is that I used a wig from Coscraft and then I de-wefted the wig. So I removed wefts from the wig. So it's almost 2 complete wigs in here, with one of the wigs being an Arda wig, which is a super thick wig. Something else that I used and needed was needle and thread, as well as a seam ripper to be able to harvest the wefts from the Coscraft wig, and a needle and thread to sew the wefts into the wig, obviously. I used a polyester thread because I think they, in my experience, they just hold the best. So, and for the sewing needle, I really recommend getting one of those curved needles because it's just so much easier to use than a straight needle. For heat tools, I used a hairdryer, curling wand, flat iron, and steamer. I used them all for different types of things. So for me, I used a hairdryer a lot of like the final touches, and it's mostly just because I'm so used to using a hairdryer. I'm still trying to figure out how to use the steamer with the wigs. I use it for curling stuff and like setting stuff. So I use the flat iron to like flip stuff at times, or just bring some extra amount of heat to different areas like the bangs and the side hair. But I use the curling wand for stuff or in areas where basically the flat iron is too fat for. So in the neck, for example, the hair is so short, so it's so difficult for the flat iron to actually get in there and really get the heat like all the way down to the root. So I use the curling wand to kind of really get in there and just flip it up. I also have a scissor and a thinning scissor. You don't really need a thinning scissor. I didn't have a thinning scissor for the longest time, but it worked out fine for me. I just got one like a year ago or something. But a scissor you'll definitely need. You could also get one of those razor cutters. I don't have one still. I really should get one. So I basically use my scissor for almost all of it. The thinning scissor is mostly just to cut down time, sometimes in like bigger, chunkier areas. I also use a comb and a teasing comb. The teasing comb is when I, of course, tease parts of the wigs to create texture, and a comb just to comb it through again. I also use a bunch of clips, needles, mini rubber bands to try and separate the spikes and the hair. So I use a lot of big clips when I try to sew in the wig, just get a lot of hair out of the area. And then I go to smaller clips to just like start to separate some little hairs, rubber bands when the little clips are not doing their thing, and needles to try and keep tiny small pieces of hair in place when I try to set it with a steamer. I would also highly recommend that you get a wig head in a similar size to yours. I have a wig head that I've made like a pattern off of, so I know it's the same size, and that will become very important when you're going to sew so much extra hair into your wig, and especially to make sure that the wig doesn't become too small, and you want to know that it's stretched out to the size of your head. Another thing that I use all the time is hairspray. I try to style as much as possible with heat, but at some point I will have to go into doing it with hairspray in the end. And I actually prefer the Tresemme Freeze hairspray, but I also use Got2b when I have to. So in my experience, it tends to, if you slap a spike with Got2b, it's kind of like flops and breaks. With Freeze, I feel like it like bounces back up again better. I don't know. I just prefer it. I think glued looks too much like glue, and I prefer the Freeze. But I use the Got2b glued a lot when I travel, especially. And question number 6: how will you style the wig? For me, with Cloud, that looks like I have to prepare and arrange wefts, sew the wefts into the wig where they need to go. I also need to make sure that the neck hair is arranged properly, so that even though it is a sewn wig, I want the neck hair to be able to cover the cap so it never shows. And I also want to do texture, shaping, and rough cutting. So roughly getting the wig into a shape before I then lastly go in to actually finish the styling off with actually arranging the spikes and the proper cutting. If you want to check out how to actually do all the stuff that I told you that I need to do, like preparing, the arranging, the sewing, the neck hair is a very strange, funny little thing that I learned how to do this time. And the texture, shaping, rough cutting, styling, all of that, I will cover that as well. Don't you worry, it's gonna happen. But this is actually this is essentially just video number 1 of all the crazy stuff. But then we will actually get to the making. So this was the planning on how and stuff, and then we're gonna do the actual stuff. I promise. I will not keep you hanging. Thank you. I hope you picked up anything of my rambles. There was such a long time that I did one of these types of videos, so I apologize for the chaos and my rustiness. But hopefully you were able to pick up something in my rambles. See you soon. Bye.